All right, what's up, guys? Coach Justin here. Gonna go over some back defenses and possibilities in terms of what you should be thinking when somebody takes your back in jiu-jitsu, whether it be in the gi or no gi, but primarily in the gi, obviously. So let's get started. I'm trying to. The light is real bright in this picture, so I'm sorry for that. Hopefully that helped maybe a little bit. I don't know. So I don't have a better angle on it than that, but what are you gonna do? So let's start with the position itself. So when you say someone has your back, what that means is that you kind of go chest to chest or chest to back, and your legs best inside like this. Okay. And there are lots of ways that your opponent is going to control from the bottom. Okay. First, there is your standard, which just hooks inside like so. Okay. And what you always want to remember about your opponent's what you need for with the guy on back is you want to go, like I said, chest to back, like so. You're always going to have a overhook. They're always going to have an overhook and an underhook until they're ready to finish a move. There are a couple of moves you can do where you have double unders, but usually to go into a move, a choke, you want an over and an under, okay? And a lot of times even that over and under turns into a choke using your lapels, okay? So if I can get here like this on your back, then I'm halfway to a choke. I have 3 potential choking options, even with just this hand in here like this, okay? But we'll go over those at a later date. So what I'm looking to do with the guy on my back is I'm looking to secure control by my feet inside. And ideally, I want the choking arm on the same side. All right, if the choking arm's not on the same side, it's going to be harder for me to get my leverage. If my choking arm is on the same side, they're turning into my choke, so I can choke them. So for the guy on bottom, you always want the guy on bottom to not be on the choking side. So if you go into a situation where you have to go to, or somebody's taking your back, you're going to go to your side, make sure you go to the side that the arm is underneath, or the overhook is on the top. Because like I said, it's hard to get the right leverage and get this arm out correctly, because that's what I need to do in order to choke from the bottom. I got to get this arm out. So having this arm here and then trying to get this arm out where there's nowhere to go except for into the mat, and I have to like go like this, and it's a lot harder. So always try to, the first thing you always want to remember is if you can help it, always try to fall to the side where the choking arm is on top. Okay, the choking arm is the one that can go around the neck. It's not the one that's going underneath. All right, so there's the distinction. Okay, now once you get here, there are a couple things the guy on the bottom can, or the guy who's attacking can do. The hooks is one, right? Body lock, body triangle for smaller guys. So it's a figure 4 body lock, kind of like this on the body. That is a pain. All right, the only really way to get out of that is to threaten a submission. And there are certain submissions you can do there. And I'll probably go over those a little bit later. But today I just want to work on escapes, okay? So the first escape that we're going to do is just a simple drive to the side, okay? So you're in your opponent's back position, right? He's got his hooks in, and you decided to drive, or you decided to go correctly. So the underhook is here, and the choking arm is here. All right. So what I want to do is I want to try to get my head to the mat on this side, and then I'll get my back to the mat. So it kind of just, it's like I'm corkscrewing out, right? And then some forms of jiu-jitsu, this was called safe haven, so that's how I like to remember it. So first of all, I'm gonna defend this grab. So he's gonna try to grab Mikey. So I'm actually just gonna block his hand here. I'm just gonna keep this hand up here to keep him from blocking my, or to grab the lapel. And then what he's gonna try to do in return is he's actually gonna use this hand to try to come up and grab this wrist from underneath. So this hand comes underneath here to grab this wrist and try to pull my hand down so we can get this in. If that happens for any reason, one of the biggest things I can do is try to clamp this arm down to keep him from getting that arm out. And even still, like I said, it's hard because the arm's already here. And a lot of the chokes require you to be on the other side. So sometimes people will even try to attack both overs like this, and that makes it pretty easy to escape as well. And there's another escape we'll do when they try to go both overs, okay? So, but in any case, we're here, and he's trying to attack here. So what I'm gonna do then is I'm actually gonna drive, and I'm gonna come off to the side like this. Now this hook can stay in. It's perfectly okay if this hook stays in through this motion. So I'm still blocking, I'm still defending, and I'm actually just turning to where I can get my head up like this, and then I'm going to end up I'm gonna keep going, so my back ends up on the mat. Now once my back's here, the any attacks they have is done. All right. So one more time. You're in somebody's back mount like so. They've got this arm over. They've got this arm under. You're defending these attacks. You're keeping your hands in tight, trying to keep this hand away from your lapel, trying to keep, even more would be maybe even doing, pull this arm here like this to really try to control this arm a little bit. And then once I'm here, I can actually start to come off to the side, drive my back, and come down here, all right? Now at this point, this is where the position can get slightly precarious because your opponent can come up on you at that point. So you have to be able to do one of two things. You have to either be able to turn yourself so that you can use your hand to block their foot coming over, or you have to use your foot to keep them from coming over. All right, so those are because that's what's going to happen. So I'll show you kind of what I mean. So if Bob here, if I'm attacking Bob, right, and he starts to do the escape. He twists underneath me like this, starts to come out like this, boom, here, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to come out and I'm going to come on top. And now I'm just in the mount position, right? I haven't necessarily bettered the being bottom hasn't necessarily bettered my position. So what Bob's going to do is he's going to do one of two things when he comes out of this position. He's either going to, when he comes here, he's either going to turn to grab this leg. So he's turning into me like this. And he's just hooking underneath it, right? He's just using a C cup like this to grab underneath that leg. And so he's going to go underneath like this. He's going to push as he twists out from underneath me and comes up into guard. Now he's much better off. There's still some attacks I can do and potentially some sweeps and all that other stuff, but now he's in the top position instead of the back position, okay? The other option for you bit squirrelier guys who maybe can't do that exactly is using what we call a butterfly hook. All right, and that's just taking this leg outside leg right here, and your foot, right? Foot, foot. And as someone tries to come over, you hook inside like this until you can get this out. Then once your foot holds this up, see I can't come over if this foot's here, then you can reach and replace and come back up. And maybe even more so in that situation, this one's actually a little bit better, because if you butterfly hook my leg, up using this one, then when you turn out, you can actually turn outside the body instead of inside the body, and that'll actually put you in a side control position, right? So I've turned out and boom, now he's in a side control position. Okay, so when you are attempting this escape, remember, number one, you always want to make sure that if you can help it, the choking arm is on top, right? Remember, the choking arm is the one that's already across your neck. I got one arm down below, one arm across the neck, like that. The choking arm is across the neck. That's the first thing. The second thing is, now once you're here, remember, you want to kind of pray to block the attacks, and you're going to use a lot of footwork to get everything out of here. Now, remember, you're going to turn, you're going to drive back to where the head gets head to head, and you're going to turn so your lower back meets. All right. Then you're either going to use your hand or your outside foot to stop this leg from coming over by either creating a C cup, right? So I've gotten here fast enough, and they're starting to get their leg over, and I cup it, and then I keep twisting my hips, or the foot, this outside foot, creates a butterfly hook here, and that way you can keep pushing away on me or your opponent until you get out. And once this leg comes out, then you can sit up and come into side control. So those are two things that you want to play with this move, depending on your body type and style and whatnot. So like me, for example, since I don't have very good butterfly hooks, what I'd try to be more inclined to do is, as I start to escape, I reach down to C cup that and twist my hips inside to keep them from coming up. Somebody else who's like smaller than me may be able to get farther out and butterfly hook before your opponent gets over and goes that way. Okay. So that's one good escape. Now the other escape is what we call the butt scoot escape. All right. Now the butt scoot escape is pretty much like it sounds. You're going to scoot your butt away. All right. Most of the time, people are inclined when they're being when they're having their back attack to drive into your opponent, and that's perfectly fine. That's usually what the recommendation is in the attack like that. But we're going to take a slightly different route because our opponent doesn't have an over-under. They have an over-over. All right. So in this situation, maybe even so, and this works best when your opponent has taken your back and you're not particularly to one side. You're trying to stay low. Okay. So you're trying to stay low on your opponent when they've taken your back. Okay. So my opponent's taken my back. They've gone over, or even more so, they went under, but they were kind of loose. So like one side's under, let's say it's this side, and they're kind of loose. So I'm actually going to try to keep this tight until I can get my elbow out. And once I get my elbow out, I can do this move. All right. So this, like I said, this works real well when your opponent tries to either go double over, which again is perfectly fine because you're trying to you know, that gives more attacks with the lapels, the double overs, or the rear naked choke. Or when you clear a hand, so maybe they're going for a choke and you start clearing a hand, or you create distance. Okay, that's another good instance of this, is creating distance, as you might say. So if I'm up high and my opponent goes over under, right? What I'm going to try to do is, and even if I'm on the side, so I'm on, you know, choking side or not, I'm going to try to scoop myself down. I'm going to try to keep this tight, scoop myself down till their arms are extended. So if you're holding on and somebody scoots down, this is what happens to your arms, right? So now my arms are extended. I can open this up, all right? So I've opened this up, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a leg like this. And notice how that leg just sort of fell off, right? If I'm here, the foot's on. If I'm down low enough and I just put my leg down, that foot kind of comes off. All right. Now the second part is the trick. I can't just turn on my opponent. I have to get my shoulder down to the mat. So I actually have to make sure that I'm down so far that as I try to go, I can drop a shoulder down. So I'm going to go with the side you can see, this side. All right. So I'm going to try to get low like this. I'm going to get under this leg. Okay. Is that right? Yeah. And most of the time, people will try to follow you over your shoulder kind of with this leg. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to reach with this arm over this leg, and I'm going to come underneath this leg, like so. Now, if you watched the moves from passing guard, this is called an over-under pass. All right. So from here, I need to make sure this leg doesn't come out, because if it does, I could potentially be triangle. But your opponent's either going to do one of two things. They're either going to try to turn this way, in which case all you got to do there is shuck the leg, and now you've passed. Or your opponent tries to square up with you and push directly on you like this. And from there, all you have to do then is scoop underneath and come this way, right? So that's why it's called the over-under pass, because in that position, I can either go over this leg or I can go under the other one, okay? And like I said, I'll do this a lot of times when I'm already low on my opponent. So if if my opponent's taking my back and they're kind of high up on my back, so instead of being like chest to back like they should, chest to upper back like they should, they're more like head is about in the chest, and so that tells me the direction I should be trying to go is down instead of up, right? But if they've got a good high back take on me, or they've got a good position on the back take, then I'm going to try to get myself over and do the safe haven. Okay, so one more time. I am here and I am hooked like so, and I've defended. Keep my hands up so I don't get a collar choke or anything else. And I'm actually going to scoop myself. I'm just going to use my legs to scoop myself while I defend. This leg dropped, so that's the shoulder I'm going to go on. I'm going to come up and go underneath and hook this arm here on that leg and sit over this leg. That's the important part too. And then this hand comes out and grabs this, grab the belt, grab the lapel, grab whatever, just to get your hold. And then from there, whatever decision they decide to make, that will determine which way they go. Okay, so I'll try to give Bob the opportunity to show you as well. See if we can. Sometimes it's easier to show that way, right? So So I've got Bob here, and I've gone a little far away. So he's going to start scooting down, right? And I'm going to try to come with him. But as he scoots down, a foot flops off. Let's say at this foot, right? And so he's going to drop this shoulder and come underneath, and he's going to spin around like so. So, is that right? Yeah, so he's on this. What did I do wrong? Yeah. So he should be, there we go. Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, he did it right. So he's going over this leg, and he's going to grab underneath this one. All right. So now if you can't see, Bob's arms over this leg and under this one. Okay, over this and under this. All right. Now what I do will determine what he does. So like I said, if I try to turn away, like into him, so if I try to turn this way, right, it's gonna be real easy for Bob to circle underneath here like this and come out the backside like this, right? Just like that. Okay. And if I decide instead to go, come on, Bob, work with me. If I instead decide to square with him, right? So this leg's underneath, between his legs, like this. This one's here, like this. And I try to square with him, then it's going to be really easy for him just to push this leg as he passes this over to this side. So he's pushing this leg, and now he's already pushing this leg this way, so it's going to be real hard for me to shrimp and turn. But plus, he's got this leg up here if he's doing it right. And again, Bob can only be so good of a partner, you know. So you just kind of have to fill in the blanks just a little bit when you watch dummy work. And you know, as I've said before, there are dummies available if you're in the Eugene Springfield area and you'd like a grappling dummy to work with. We have the normal size ones for adults, and then they have the smaller ones for the kids, because we know unless as an adult you're close to your child's size, it might be difficult. Like me, for example, I'm a fairly large fellow. I probably won't actually be able to do very good in terms of sparring or practicing with my child until I'm, you know, until he's probably maybe 13 or 14, and then he'll be closer to my height, and then it'll be a little bit easier to spar with or to practice with. So so what you can do if you're like, you know, a normal sized adult, your child's like a normal sized child, you can actually manipulate the dummy. I've done that for my niece before. She's 13, but she's still smaller than I am by quite a bit. And so I've actually had the dummy like on her back, and I've manipulated the dummy on top of her. So that's totally a thing that you can do if your child or you have a, you know, partner or whatever, significant other, who's willing to do that for you, to be on top and manipulate said dummy if they're not willing to, you know, participate in the actual practice. So totally up to you. All right, so let's look at the submission for the day, which is the rear naked choke. So that's two ways that you can escape from the back. But let's look at the rear naked choke, what it looks like, what it means. Actually, you know, in Portuguese, the name of this choke is actually called mata-leão, which means lion killer. Because the fact of the matter is that all mammals have very similar anatomies. They all have necks. They all have carotid arteries, and so that's how this choke works. Is it uses a carotid artery to choke choke with. And actually, I'm going to take the gi top off. We don't need the gi top specifically for this choke. It can be useful. Got a wire in here that makes it more difficult to adjust. All right, so I'm going to show the rear naked choke from kneeling, because the reality is that, you know, in certain circumstances, you can hit this choke from a seated position. So if your opponent is seated like this and you came up from behind them, you should be able to still choke them, because it doesn't require much. All right. So when you're on somebody's back, one very important rule, again, is the chest to back. If your opponent's chest to back, you know they're doing it right. And if your opponent's choking arm, and if you're ear to ear, like you can't really do this anyway, but you're not really like same side, you're opposite. And you don't even want to be, you want to try to be ear to ear, like you're listening to their headphones while they're listening to their headphones. Okay. And in terms of arm positioning, the under a hooked arm should be over the choking arm. And the reason for that is because if it's the other way and my opponent somehow gets a hold of it, there's actually a inverted arm bar right here if you do it right, right? So if I was here and my opponent grabbed my arm and did this, my elbow bends over his shoulder like this, and it could be broken, Steven Seagal style, for those of you who know who that is. So I want to go here. That way, the hand they reach for is going to be my underhand, which is a lot easier for me to play off than it is trying to play off the choking hand. Okay. Now, your opponent will invariably, or I'll go through the choke itself first, and then I'll talk about defenses. All right. So the number one thing besides, you know, underhook grabbing here, you want to kind of do like a monkey grip right here. So a monkey grip on the wrist, and you want to hug in tight, and you want to go ear to ear. Now remember, this is the generic choke. There will be a few other different variations of the rear naked choke that you could do, as well as the other lapel chokes. So just remember that. Okay. So again, I'm going to grab underhand here. I'm going to go ear to ear. All right. The next thing I'm going to do is I want to clear this hand. So the wrist most likely will be up here trying to attack. When that happens, I'm going to grab the wrist. I'm actually going to clear it off. Okay. If they're trying to grab with this wrist, it's okay, because the leverage isn't right to really defend the actual like bringing up of the choke. Okay. So again, I'm here. You want to defend this arm away using this hand, and then you get this hand up and you go across the shoulder. Now you're already threatening the choke. Like this is already tight against someone who you got in this position, and they're already going to feel, oh no, like they're real close to a choke here, right? And then so once I've got this extended out, right, I'm keeping this hand from pulling this hand off because of the leverage that it required. And then I'm actually going to, when I get this hand out, I'm going to slide it behind the head, all right? Everybody does this a little bit differently. You never, ever, ever want to try to like reach over like this and grab your bicep and then try to get it behind. That is another armbar waiting to happen, an attack at least. So what you want to do is you want to block this hand here like so. Then you're going to take this hand and you're going to slide it. You're going to get it close to your body and you're going to slide it past. Now, the trick to this too is when you do slide it, you don't try to slide it in front of this hand, because your hand wants to end up on his bicep. So what I like to do is I like to grab the shoulder like this, right? So I'm just grabbing the shoulder up here. And then when I slide this in, my hand goes behind my hand. So now this hand, you see how I can wave this hand behind that one? That's because once I get this hand inside, I can grab my bicep, and now I've got the choke in. Okay? So, and the other trick too is when you do this, there was a long time where people would use this hand here, you do it palm down, and it works real well to like push the head, but it's also real easy to slide off. like in the UFC, that was a big thing because the gloves, you could reach back, grab the padding on the knuckles of the gloves, and easily pull the glove over the top. And so they started figuring, well, what can we do? Well, we should do it this way. And I imagine both ways were seen as technically correct until they realized the shortcoming of the palm way and trying to push the head forward. Plus, you don't need to push the head forward, okay? You shouldn't need to push the head forward. There is no, this is not about, and by the way, this is not about squeezing power. This is actually about the power of your back. And I'll show you why that is in a minute. So again, I've got this right here. I've collected this arm here. And I've kind of tried to push it away, maybe push it down to the back. And then once I'm ready, this elbow comes in, slides behind, grabs the head, and boom, now we're in the choke position. Now to finish the choke, the finish is actually, it's not squeezing. See how if like I try to bring my elbows together, call that squeezing. What you're actually doing is you're actually pulling your shoulder blades back. Your back has much more power in it to release space than it does trying to squeeze with your arms, because you might not be strong enough with your arms to get a squeeze with your arms. So again, notice like I'm not trying to bring my elbows together. I'm actually trying to bring my elbows back. Once I do that, I'm actually using my back to choke instead of my arms to choke. And my back will stay strong for a lot longer than my arms will if I try to choke with my arms. Okay. So one more time, just to show the run through. All right. So I'm like here, grab across. I'm going to defend, reach across, grab that shoulder, pull this out, slide this up on the bicep, pull the shoulders back, trying to get your shoulder blades back together. And that's your rear naked choke. Okay. Now you might be thinking, what do I do to defend this? This seems like a real jerk choke thing to do. What do I do to defend this? Well, the basic defense, as I have said, first of all, is your body positioning. Okay, if you're on your opponent and they're going to choke you, and you're too high, so you figured out if my head's here, I need my head here. Then if I push and I get my head up a little higher, they're not going to have the same angle on my throat. Now that's one way that I can start to defend this. All right, the other way is, so that's kind of like, safe haven, like we talked about. All right, the other way is you're too low. So if you're too far away, like if I'm here, my opponent's down here on my belly, see, or even if his head is here, it's gonna be real hard for me to get that choke. I need his head all the way by my head so I can get this. And remember, if it's too high, see, he's up here, there's still, it's all about the position for the choke. So if you can adjust your position accordingly, up and down, that's gonna be your first line of defense. All right, but always remember that the lapel chokes are there too. So you should be defending what your opponent's trying to do. So if my opponent tries to get this in, and I'm defending this correctly, and they grab my lapel and sneak this in, now I might have been trying to attack or defend this hand, or defend this hand. Now I'm trying to defend it again, but this time I'm trying to defend it from getting the lapel in. Well, I can't choke you with the lapel with my arms here. So a real good thing to do here would be to use this arm to try to get your head out of the lapel like this. If you can push that arm up, even to here, this is going to be a lost cause for your opponent. He's got no choke if your arm's up over the head like this. If it's still a little low, then I could try to reset it and get it back under. But if you pop the head down like this and get it up on the bicep, so we won't worry about the choke itself, but just to know that it's there. If I'm going for this rear naked choke, right, and you're not doing what I want you to do, I might try to go for this lapel choke because it's a little easier to get in here. You don't want me to have this lapel choke. So if this is already in here, you need to worry about this arm, push that arm up, okay? So the first thing you think about is your position. The next thing you think about is that second arm, okay? So if I get to here, right, and my arm's still inside and I can't get it out, I can't choke you. I've had plenty of guys just pinch this elbow down to their body and stop my rear naked choke attempt automatically. Like I've been like, once I'm here and my arm's in here like this, and especially with the gi on, there's a lot of grip in here. Getting my arm out is a pain in the butt. So again, it's not really the submission that I go for when I go for submissions. It's there, but it's not really the submission I go for. So I'm here like this, and I try to get this arm out. They just pinch the arm out tight, and it's real hard. Like even when you have control of their wrist to try to extend it out, if they're flexing up real good, right? So you have to switch to something else if they do that. If they go here and they know, and so that's what you want to do. That's what I would do if I were you. Is I'd be real strong about keeping that elbow in tight. Like if this is the side, just keep this elbow in tight like this. And if they can't get that hand out, they can't choke you, right? Lapels though, that's where that kind of came into play. So like if I crunch this down and you got this arm here, it's real easy for you to pull this lapel tight and get this thumb inside. Now I'm one step away from this choke, which is I pull tight here and I come across like this, right? So to show that from this perspective, if I'm here, I pull tight like this and I come across like that. That's another choke. Or depending on how loose things are, I may even come up here like this and do the same thing. So there's multiple ways to choke somebody from the back. There's even a bow and arrow choke, and we'll go over all those lapel chokes tomorrow. But for today, that is what I have. So we've gone over some escapes, and we've gone over some rear naked choke defenses, lion killer defenses. Don't think you can actually kill a lion with this, unless it's old and doesn't have any claws or teeth. But the idea there is that anything with a neck can be choked, just like anybody with a neck can be choked. Some are more difficult than others. I have a very thick neck, so I'm difficult to choke. I'm not impossible to choke, but I am difficult to choke. Some are easier than others. But whatever the case is, just take what you learned today. Keep it in mind if someone takes your back. Remember what's there. Try to escape, and we'll go over some more escapes tomorrow, some more ideas tomorrow. And hope you all have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.